It had been a fake signal, a false echo. The Eider ignored it. The smallest target moved even further away from the others. The trembling in the ground was more intense and closer. The Eider braced its rear limbs, pushed off, and leapt. The little girl gave an ear-splitting scream. Rather than running away, she had frozen to the spot and was screaming unremittingly. The Witcher darted towards her, drawing his sword mid-leap, and realized at once that something was wrong, that he'd been tricked. The man pulling a handcart loaded with faggots screamed and shot 6 feet up into the air in front of Geralt's eyes, blood spraying copiously from him. He fell, only to immediately fly up again, this time in 2 pieces, each spurting blood. He'd stopped screaming. Now the woman was screaming piercingly, and, like her daughter, was petrified and paralyzed by fear. Although he didn't believe he would, the Witcher managed to save her. He leapt and pushed hard, throwing the blood-spattered woman from the path into the forest among the ferns, and realized at once that this time, too, it had been a trick, a ruse. For the flat, grey, many-limbed and incredibly quick shape was now moving away from the handcart and its first victim. It was gliding towards the next one, towards the still shrieking little girl. Geralt sped after the Eider. Had she remained where she was, he would have been too late. But the girl demonstrated presence of mind and bolted frantically. The grey monster, however, would easily have caught up with her, killed her, and turned back to dispatch the woman too. That's what would have happened had it not been for the Witcher. He caught up with the monster and jumped, pinning down one of its rear limbs with his heel. If he hadn't jumped aside immediately, he would have lost a leg. The grey creature twisted around with extraordinary agility, and its curved pincers snapped shut, missing him by a hair's breadth. Before the Witcher could regain his balance, the monster sprang from the ground and attacked. Geralt defended himself instinctively, with a broad and rather haphazard swing of his sword that pushed the monster away. He hadn't wounded it, but now he had the upper hand. He sprang up and fell on the monster, slashing backhand, cleaving the carapace of the flat cephalothorax. Before the dazed creature came to its senses, a second blow hacked off its left mandible. The monster attacked, brandishing its limbs and trying to gore him with its remaining mandible like an aurochs. The Witcher hacked that one off too. He slashed one of the Eider's pedipalps with a swift reverse cut, then hacked at the cephalothorax again. It finally dawned on the Eider that it was in danger, that it must flee. Flee far from there, take cover, find a hiding place. It only lived to kill. In order to kill, it must regenerate, it must flee. Flee! The Witcher didn't let it. He caught up with it, stepped on the rear segment of the thorax, and cut from above with a fierce blow. This time, the carapace gave way, and viscous greenish fluid gushed and poured from the wound. The monster flailed around, its limbs thrashing the ground chaotically. Geralt cut again with his sword, this time completely severing the flat head from the body. He was breathing heavily. It thundered in the distance. The growing wind and darkening sky heralded an approaching storm. Right from their very first encounter, Albert Smulka, the newly appointed district Dreve, reminded Geralt of a Swede. He was stout, unwashed, thick-skinned, and generally pretty dull. In other words, he didn't differ much from all the other district clerks Geralt had dealt with. "Would seem to be true," said the Reeve. "Not like a Witcher for dealing with troubles. Jonas, my predecessor, couldn't speak highly enough of you," he continued a moment later, not waiting for any reaction from Geralt. "To think I considered him a liar. I mean, that I didn't completely lend credence to him. I know how things can grow into fairy tales, particularly among the common folk. With them there's always either a miracle or a marvel or some witcher with superhuman powers. And here we are, turns out it's the honest truth. Uncounted people have died in that forest beyond the little river. And because it's a shortcut to the town, the fools went that way, to their own doom, heedless of warning."